Today we're focusing on the idea of the divine feminine as both soft power and fierce love. Soft power and fierce love. And thinking about, what does it mean to bring that portion of us forward, whatever bodysuit we might be wearing, to make friends with soft power and fierce love. So I'm going to begin with one of my favorite poems readings ever. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's called The Invitation by Uriah Mountain Dreamer. Doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, be realistic, remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you are telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. If you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it is not pretty every day. And if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand at the edge of the lake and shout to the sliver of the full moon, yes. It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you make. I want to know if you can get up after a night of grief and despair. Weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done for the children. It doesn't matter to me who you know or who you came here to be. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't matter. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. Soft power, fierce love. Even in the science of mind. Are you making a decision? Are you manifesting something? Are you happy with your life? Let's be positive and make it all work out. But life is full and rich, and it is to be lived with, I don't know what poet says it, to suck the marrow out of the bones of life. Right? Juicy, rich, good, bad, hard, easy. We so often pray that it will be just ease and grace, and then we think that maybe we shouldn't be making an effort. Not recognizing that ease and grace is what we use to move through that which is hard. Doesn't mean it's not hard. It means we stand in who we are, right? And I think this is the complement to the masculine manifestation. Set your intention, make your decision, do the thing, right? Valuable, super valuable. We have to have it. We have to do it. All of us, men, women, wherever you fit on the non-binary spectrum, right? We all have to do that. But we also have to bring forward this other aspect of ourselves. Soft power and fierce love. So I have separated this into 3 pieces, and we'll close with the idea of the maiden, mother, and crone that is so powerful in all of the ancient traditions, the fairy tales, and the deep work that the goddess traditions do with what it means to be a woman and to recognize this about ourselves. So the first thing we'll start out with, you can't really see that little word up there. It's kind of up off the top of the screen. The soft power, fierce love, the first thing that comes to mind about divine feminine is that it is actually maternal. It is actually maternal. When we think about Mother Nature, Mother Earth, there's a nurturing quality, a feeding, a taking care of quality about that everything that is needed is already given. It's already present. And it is here. It's the banquet table. It's not just spirit that puts forward the banquet table. It is actually this unbelievable planet on which we live that gives so much of itself to all of us. And that nurturing is what allows us to take care of each other, to give to each other. Not just to be about ourselves and our own lives and what we need and what we want, but actually recognize that there is a deep need for us to be present with each other. And that maternal instinct usually really brings itself about in home and hearth. Do we make spaces that are inviting? Do we care about our home so that the people that are there, including ourselves, are nurtured? Is it sacred space? Does it represent us in some way? Are we making a warm environment that has an ambiance that nurtures our soul? Right? I think all of those things fall into this sort of maternal idea of the divine feminine. And there's an embracing, right? As we said last week, the masculine is the forward. The feminine is the horizontal. And there's an embracing of all of that, a gathering together and a making of a beautiful space. One of the challenges with this is that maternal sense of the divine feminine has been equated with gender roles of being a mom or being a mother or being a wife, being a woman. And yet, there are lots of men who do this beautifully. And some women who couldn't care less, right? It's not their deal. And so the challenge is for all of us to embrace and invite this part of us without boxing others or ourselves into it. Make it welcome, value it, allow it to be a part of who we are, but not as a stereotype, not as a box or a role that we live with. I love this idea of soft power. I ran across this idea of soft power many, many years ago, actually in all places, of a course I was taking on leadership and church growth. And there was a statement made that said, well, in the last 400 years, the church has lost so much power in the power structure that now it's filled with 80% women and there's no power there anymore, which is why all the men are in business. That was the statement that was made. And I thought, wow, that is so interesting. And then, of course, if you read the polls and you look at the Pew, and the Gallup and all that, they do lots of polls about religion in America over the last 30, 35 years. And the evidence is that the pews are filled with women, and up until not too long ago, the leadership was all filled with men. Because that's where the power lie, not in the pews. Yeah. This idea, and so it was coined as, well, it's just that it's the soft power place. Like it was less than, not important. So now spirituality is relegated to the women. That was the last part of that sentence. Spirituality and religion is relegated to the women because, it's soft power. That's not really where the power lies. And what is so valuable about soft power? It's connecting, it's yielding, surrendering, compromising, finding a way to make it work, rather than just pushing the idea, but including, listening. All of those things fall in that soft power to which women are relegated. And yet, as I said last week, at the end of our talk last week, they have determined, which was really quite a surprise, that those peace accords that have lasted all have had one or more women at the table who were advocating for this connection, compromising, making it work, finding a way through, as opposed to battling it out on the two sides. This is the essential description of yin, right? Of the yin and yang. That's really the essential description of yin. And when you look at the yin-yang symbol, male and female, feminine and masculine, they're not even on the lists. So that there's no association with biology or gender. It is actually more the way we think and feel and engage with life. Do you see? Right? And some of us lean more one way than the other, but we all benefit from embracing the whole. And this is the side that, quite frankly, gets shunned, or truthfully, women are taught to overuse. Yes? Yield, surrender, compromise, make it work. Don't push too hard. Stay a little bit in the background. Yeah. I also think it's really, really funny. Patty Generous, are you in the room? I don't think Patty Generous. I hope you're watching online. Patty Generous is the person that I think of as the epitome of somebody who has soft power encased around steel. Yes. Yes. And it's such a beautiful combination. It's beautiful. I can only aspire to ever be like that. It's an extraordinary thing, right? Not either or. The other piece that I've really come to appreciate and to embrace, which is not always welcomed in the circles in which I talk about it, is this idea of fierce love. Fierce love. To me, fierce love is to do what it takes, absolutely, unequivocally do what it takes to stay connected, make it work, find a way through, bring that compassion, nurturing to the table in a way that supports forward movement. We see this fierce love in the countless single women who raise children. Many, if they are below the poverty line, having 2 jobs, finding ways to figure all of this out. And also how many women actually have 2 jobs because they're married and they work. And they work and they come home and they are still the primary homemaker. It is changing, thank God. Because it's not about roles anymore. It is more about the wholeness then of the relationship. right? Yeah, this was me a lot of the times when Jason was little. In this passage, this particular piece of the invitation was my anchor. This was my anchor. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, overwork, too many whatever, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children. Can I bring my joy, my positive attitude, you are a small person and you deserve my attention even though I just as soon fall over into bed? You have children, you don't have that luxury. Well, or maybe you just take that luxury and don't realize what it's doing to the children. Do we have that? And if we extend that, not only to our own personal individual children, but the children of others, the children to the 7th generation, the children of the beings who share this planet with us. Yeah, we may be weary and have grief and despair. We may be overworked and overwhelmed. But can we get up in the morning and do what is there to do? Because we are fiercely in love with life itself. Because we are fiercely in love with our children. Because we are fiercely in love with the beauty of nature, with the amazing beings that we share this planet with, because we are fiercely in love with the future generations as the past generations have been in love with us. Are we fiercely in love with life? Or are we getting by, just being about ourselves? It's inconvenient. I'm too tired. I can't imagine doing one more thing. Well, it's hard to say that when your child is hungry, needs to be fed and clothed and maybe even taken to the doctor. Do you see? That we can extend that beyond just our own child, our own children. What a gift. And there are so many examples of this, right? I think about this as like the mama bear part of mama, right? The mama bear part. I'll never forget, my son said to me one day, he said, man, there's only one time in my life that I literally saw steam coming out of your ears. And I said, what are you talking about? And he reminded me of a conversation that we had with my stepfather at dinner. And Jason was 19. He had spent, he might have been 20 at this point. He'd spent a year driving an hour each direction, all the way down to a fire department where he could volunteer. He spent a year doing that 2-3 times a week because, of course, they didn't think that, somebody who would live so far away would actually stick it out. They reluctantly gave him a position as a volunteer firefighter. He did that for a year, and they were so impressed that they said, we're going to hire you. We're going to send you to firefighter school. So they sent him to firefighter school. He went to firefighter school and he graduated and he got a job as a rookie. And we happened to go to my stepfather's to celebrate. And in the middle of dinner, finally saying, Jason has something to share. Jason laid out this whole thing and how excited he was and how all that was really great and all that was wonderful. And my stepfather said, oh, well, we had these friends, these 2 kids, they're in college, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and they're getting straight A's, and they're going to be a lawyer and a doctor, and then my son said he literally saw steam coming out of my ears that day. And I said, Jason, we're leaving. And we got up from the table and we left. And that was when I said, you don't actually ever have to have our relationship with your stepfather, with your step-grandfather again, unless you choose. It was so disrespectful. And I was so angry. And I so much wanted to protect my son because he'd really put himself out. And his teen years, they were not so good, right? He really felt like he had overcome something and accomplished something. And my mama bear just wanted to. Now, I have enough spirituality on board. We're leaving. We're leaving before I have to make amends. I'd rather leave than make amends. Fierce love. And later, also, Jason said that it was one of the times that he really understood how much I loved him because I stood up for him. Do you see? Are we standing up for our children? Are we standing up for each other? Are we standing up for people who need to be stood up for? Are we standing up for the planet? Fierce love. This fierce love is, surprisingly enough, actually evidenced in a lot of the goddesses of other traditions. So this is Kuan Yin, Isis, and Tara. And they all have stories of this really profoundly fierce love. One of the things that's really amazing is that it's hard to find, and was astonishing to me when I learned, that while Kuan Yin is the Buddha of compassion, she actually comes with a sword. And you have to go back quite a ways to find more antique representations of the sword, because clearly, at least in the West, we are not interested in that kind of compassion. Right? So I remember studying about, what do you mean, a sword of compassion? Okay, that's like an oxymoron. I don't really get it. And I did a lot of studying. And really it was when Kuan Yin was a very, 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 very big deal in China in a huge, long period of time. I can't remember now in which centuries. And she always came with a sword. And it was called her sword of compassion, in which she had so much compassion for who you are and the truth of your being that her sword cut through the BS. She would not collude with your story. Ain't it awful? I can't do it. I'm a limited human being, blah, blah, blah. They did it. There's their fault, blah, blah, blah. Her sword of compassion was the sword that cut through the veil of false belief, because she was so compassionate about how painful it is to live inside the veil and not know the truth of ourselves. And her compassion was so great that she wanted nothing more but for you to know the truth of you, that your life is worth living full out. Yeah. I think that's such an amazing thing, that fierce love it's not angry, but it's powerful. It's not only acquiescing, it's also speaking truth. It's actually loving another person so much that you believe they can handle the truth instead of treating them like a child who needs to be protected. Right? That's where love and maternal can get confused. We see this sort of compassion, this fierce love, we see it in the grandmothers of the Native American tribes. Oh, yeah, there was the council of the men who were deciding whether or not they were going to go to war or, move or do the whatever. But there was always the council of the grandmothers. And if the council of the grandmothers did not think that this was good for the tribe, they were not doing it. This ability to see larger, beyond, see how it connects to other things, see the impacts it's going to have on the other people, see all of that, right? That was the wisdom of the grandmothers. And it's, of course, why all moms are accused of having eyes in the back of their head, right? My mother certainly did, and Jason is now realizing, oh my God, and now I see that you did that. Not colluding with a smallness, and also having an expectation for who you are without judgment. See, we say you can't have expectations, like in your relationships and things like that, because that's a really bad thing. But that's only because the expectation comes with judgment, because you're not living up to my expectation. Or you're not living up to the expectation that I have. But if my expectation is about the truth of you, about the life that you are, the light that you are, and my expectation is that is revealing itself, then I have no need to have a judgment about how that reveals itself. Do you see? Oh, you're not doing it right. That's not how your light should shine. Who am I to know, right? Who are we to know that about each other? But to expect that you deserve, that you need to, that is a biggest part of why you're here, is to let your light shine in the way that your light shines. Yeah, fierce love, standing up for each other, standing up for our children to the 7th generation. Had a really interesting experience. It doesn't matter. Sometime in the last week. I've had so much going on, I can't even remember what day it was. So sometime in the last week or two, I went to a Faith Forward meeting. Those of you who know, I'm part of Faith Forward Dallas, which is a socially active group of people of faith that is an arm of Thanksgiving Square. And so the group is reconvening, trying to figure out what are we doing? What do people need? Those of us who are people of faith or leaders in communities, and we want to participate, but we want to do it from a faith place, not from a you're wrong and, an angry place. What does that look like? And so we had a presentation from a woman from Texas Impact. Texas Impact, faith-based something. And so she was telling us about all kinds of different things, half of which I didn't understand. But it really struck me because we're doing this democracy and advocacy work, and we're wanting to learn how to advocate for the global vision. She said they were down there not too long ago talking to some legislators about various things. And to a person, the legislator said, "Where are the people? Where are the people? Where are they in the streets? Where are the opinion pieces? Where are the letters?" To a person, the legislators were saying, "We don't understand why people are not engaged." That is an extraordinary thing to think about. Are we standing in our fierce love for each other, for our vision, for the planet, for whatever that we stand for, with enough fierce love to write, to speak, to join? Or are we too busy in our own lives? Yeah, I listened to that and I thought, I'm one of those people. I haven't been down there. I haven't talked to anybody. I have opinions. Ooh, I have lots of them. Yeah. Where are the people? Right? So think about fierce love. Women, moms, fierce love, who have engaged and made a difference. Mothers against drunk drivers. And they have extraordinary impact in safety, in legislation, extraordinary impact. Actually, it's such an extraordinary impact, it's actually impacting Ireland and their incredible culture of driving while drunk. In the last 10 or 15 years has significantly changed, and they're saving lives like you can't believe. Concerned mothers for gun violence who have been protesting the NRA convention. The suffragettes. All kinds of women who are fighting for themselves with this fierce love for the expression of life, of well-being, of wholeness, of connection. I see you. Yes, you're a part of this, right? The right to choose, the right to water, the right to safety against domestic violence, the right to financial freedom. The stories are extraordinary. The groups that are working all over the world, individual women and groups and not-for-profits, Yeah. Are we bringing our fierce love to the things that are important to us? That fierce love, I believe, comes as we move into the more mature aspects of the divine feminine, the maiden, the mother, and the crone. I love this quote. This quote comes, from Emma Milden. You will experience the triple goddess, maiden, mother, and crone. These phases are symbolic to not just your own life, but to life as a whole, birth, life, and death. As women, it is important to understand that you are the cycle. So, speaking specifically to the women now, maiden, mother, and crone, we have these phases in our life that are somewhat tied to the biology of our own ability to grow, to maturity, to have children, mother, that whole mothering and whole life, middle of life, and crone, post-menopause, when the biology is no longer available for us to have children. Surprisingly enough, men also have a trilogy like this, and it is student, householder, and king. Interesting. And yet, how is the crone normally shown? An old woman who looks like a witch, and sometimes even called a witch. The maiden, mother, and crone, an extraordinary opportunity for us to embrace all the parts of us. The maiden is welcoming, she's purposeful, she's joyful, she's growing into her fullness with no fetters of child and house. Mother, nurturing that maternal piece, but also managing households, managing budgets, managing children, managing all kinds of things. And the crone, wise and truthful. How many women do you know get to a certain age, they just don't care what you think anymore. They're just going to say it out loud. And you're like, oh man, you just said that right out loud. Because they don't care. Right? The maiden, the mother, and the crone, they all have a yes to say, and they all have a no to say. The maiden's yes is to possibility, to love, and to self-expression. But the no is to objectifying her as a sexual being. The no to self-hatred, and the no to unwanted advancements and harassment. The mother has a yes to the possibility in you, yes to who you are, yes to what is needed regardless of what is going on, yes to handling the stuff that needs to be handled, because otherwise there's no dinner, there's no laundry, and the child is going to cry all night, which would be bad. The no, the mother has a no to say to violence, to disrespect, to this idea that there's no way out of exploitation and limitation. To grow her children and move them out into the world and believe that that's possible. The crone has a yes to say to the longer view, to a belief in her own wisdom, and to aging gracefully without fear, saying it like it is. Her no is to the generational patterns, to waking up. Let's not do it this way anymore. And to being and seeing this newness being able to reemerge as the old dies. So my question to myself and to all of us is, who is the keeper of all of this? Basically, the divine feminine is the keeper of the civility, of manners, of values, right? This goddess love. Who stands up for the well-being of the children and of our planet to the 7th generation? Are we bringing our maternal nature, our soft power, and our fierce love, and all of us, especially those of us who are moving into crone? How will we, you, I, bring our soft power to the table? I love these images that we've had all month. The middle is the mother, maiden, and crone. Notice that the crone is in the center of that image, represented by the full moon, the fullness is the crone. Dance like a maiden, love like a mother, think like a crone is often associated with this image that reminds us that our divine feminine is so much more than any one-sided piece, right? We talked about that with the Madonna horror complex. We talked about that with Eve and Lilith and Mary's, all the two Marys and all of that. So I'm going to close with this. God is rising. This is for the women who have walked with hidden shame, stirring like all is well, though weighted down in pain. This is for her inner child who longs to forget her innocent stolen body, soul, and spirit rended into pieces, fragments, broken and bent. This is for the maiden longing to belong to another in hopes to make right the darkened wrongs, not realizing, blinded by oozing wounds, her own innate delicious power thick within her womb. This is for the mother, breaking eons of fettered chains, for the children she has birthed through blood and breaths of change. She calls them redemption, regardless of their name. This is for the crone who called her shattered pieces home to herself, to all her luminous bodies where she never dared to feel, making strong her bones, crushing oppressors with the swaying of her hips, her hands soaring like doves, honey dripping from her lips. This is for the wild woman who traversed the underground, leaving her footprints while taming the hellhounds. Like a seed breaking fallow ground, emerging fruitful garden, no longer bound. No longer bound by the nightmare of the past, awakened from the dream of separation. She is merging realms between. This is for the woman, for the goddess, for me, for you, rising from our ashes, making all things new.